I would like to start by thanking you for taking the time to watch my presentation. My name is Juliana. I am your student from Sociology 100 course, section 05, and I am going to present chapter 6, Groups and Organizations. I am only going to present the parts 6.1 and 6.3 as the rest of the parts belong to the other people in my previous group. Starts with the question, how is society possible? The chapter presents a German sociologist called George Simmel, and he wrote an essay called The Problem of Sociology. His essay starts with the following quote: Society exists where a number of individuals enter into interaction. That is a good explanation of society, but it can be interpreted as a truism. That means something that is too obvious to be mentioned. It is obvious that society exists where a number of individuals enter into interaction. Throughout his essay, Simmel gets to the conclusion that there is no such thing as society as such. That is a very important quote for sociology, and it means that there's no society, outside of the interactions between the individuals. So without interactions, there is no possibility of having a society. Um, so sociology is the science of society. It is a discipline without an object because society cannot be an object. If you think about it, society is a term, and a term is a term for ongoing processes of interactions. Therefore, it cannot be an object. The solution to this question differs depending on the levels of analysis that you are going to use to deal with this problem. From that, the chapter explains the three levels of analysis inside of sociology. Just adding a note here, I thought it was a little bit strange that the chapter explained these levels again, because as I can record from my readings, this book has presented these levels before already, but as they decided to explain them again, I am going to explain them here as well. So starting over, I like to create an analogy when I am studying the levels of analysis inside of sociology. I like to create an analogy with the writing levels. For an example, the first person, second person, and third person when you are writing. So the first level of analysis is the micro level, and it focuses on individual and intimate interactions. That means intimate interactions. So in my analogy, that would be the first person when you're writing. And it's very interesting because when you're writing in the first person, you're writing for yourself and about yourself. So that is very intimate. The chapter uses a hockey game as an example for all of these three levels of analysis. And inside of the micro level, a good example inside of the hockey game would be the 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 game players inside of the hockey game and how they interact with the other hockey games without language conversation. For an example, how do they know when it's their cue to start and to get involved with what's going on in the game? That is a good micro level analysis, sociological analysis inside of the hockey game. The second level of analysis is the meso level, and it focuses on the individual plus the collective. Uh, Following my analogy with the writing, the meso level of analysis would be when you write in the second person, because when you're writing in the second person, you're writing for somebody else and for a person or a group of people that you know who you are talking to. So it's not too broad, but it's also not too intimate. The sociology meso level of analysis inside of the hockey game, for an example, could be the relationship between the fandom inside of the hockey game and the hockey players. How does the fandom get so emotionally involved with the hockey players? How does that interaction work? There is a good sociology level of analysis inside of the hockey game. The third level of analysis is the macro level, and it focuses on society-wide interactions, social interactions. So it is very broad and it tries to bring lots of elements into it. Inside of my analogy in the writing, the macro level of analysis would be when you write on the third person, because when you're writing on the third person, it is not personal. You can't write for yourself or about yourself, and you are speaking to a third person, an external person from your view, and that is very much the same with the macro level of analysis in sociology. Inside of the hockey game, a good example would be analyzing the history of hockey. How did it start, and how much did it transform into what it is today? And another good example inside of the hockey game would be the fact that nowadays a hockey game is not only a entertainment and a game to have fun, but it's also a capitalist enterprise. Next slide. After that, I go to the point 6.3 inside of the chapter 6, and it talks about networks. Networks are basically groups. It comes from groups because before this point, there is an explanation about groups. And networks are dynamics of the groups, and they differ depending on the number of individuals involved in the groups. There are two types of groups that are presented in this chapter. The first one are the dyads. Dyads are small two-member groups, for an example, a couple, and the second one are the triads. Triads are small three-member groups, for an example, a group inside of a classroom. Dyads, triads are more interesting and they have more opportunities than dyads because in a dyad, if one of the individuals in the group leaves, there is no more group. But in a triad, if one of the individuals leaves, there is still a dyad remaining. The chapter also presents social network. A social network is a collection of people who exchange resources, for example, emotional or financial resources, and they are tied together by a specific configuration of connections. So, for an example, a classroom would be a social network, or Facebook would be a social network. The chapter also presents two different types of social networks. The first type is the one node social network. One node is when there is one person connecting to many people about the same subject. And one nodal is when all of the people are working together. So a good example would be for if a person wants to go and play football with other 50 people, they could approach with a one node, which would be this person would call each one of the 50 people to talk about the football, or they could approach it as a nodal. They could call all of the 50 people at once to speak about this football game. So end of my presentation, you can see the reference list. I have only used one link for the chapter 6, groups and organizations. I kept my presentation short because I remember when you gave the instructions for this assignment, you said that each group would have 15 minutes for the presentation. My group had 3 people, so I divided 15 minutes between 3. That's 5 minutes. So I made my presentation as short as it could be. I hope you understand that, and I'm here in case you have any questions. Thank you very much for watching my presentation, and I hope you have a good day.